Space Cafe. News, music, and comedy.
If they choose to study the issue, that is at their prerogative, and they have the full set of documents from which to do so.
So, so you're just basically passing them off to them because you don't want to comply with the order of the House.
You said you sent the documents to NSICOP, so I'd like to ask some questions about NSICOP. First, when you sent the documents there, did you ask the committee to review this matter?
I provided the documents and referred the issue to NSICOP, as you refer to it, as it is the appropriate committee with the appropriate level.
But did you provide any instructions to the committee?
My letter is, it refers the documents to the committee and suggests that this committee would be more appropriate for review of the document.
The next question, the 2021-22 departmental plan for NSICOP's secretariat indicates its core responsibility earlier this year from, quote, assist the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians in fulfilling its mandate, to parliamentary review of national security and intelligence activities, end quote. Why was that core responsibility changed earlier this year?
I'm sorry, I can't speak to the core responsibility of NSICOP and why any changes have happened to that committee.
Thank you. Since you sent the documents to NSICOP, you obviously know about the committee, and can you tell us who hires and fires the members of the committee?
Well, I will just say that it's a committee that does have representatives, including from your party, on the committee, and they're very hardworking members of the committee that have the appropriate clearance to be able to review sensitive documents. And so, obviously, this committee is tasked with reviewing documents that are sensitive in nature.
Thank you, Minister. Subsection 5(1) of the Act governing the committee says the Prime Minister hires and fires the members of the committee, and they hold office at his pleasure. Furthermore, Section 6(1) of the Act gives the Prime Minister the power to determine the committee chair. Do you, Minister, have the right to refuse the committee's request for further information, and do you have the right to block a committee's review of any matter?
Repeat again, through the chair, that the committee is the appropriate committee to review documents that are sensitive. The documents have been provided in their unredacted manner to the committee for that reason.
Well, thank you, Minister. I note subsection 61 gives you the authority as Minister to refuse information requested by the committee, and subsection 8(1)(b) gives you the right to block the committee's review of any matter. My final question, my second to final question for you is, does the Prime Minister have the power to direct the committee to change reports and remove information from reports before those reports are made public?
I'm not understanding the line of questioning. I understand that the Conservative Party has two members, and I'm wondering if there is no faith in their own caucus members to do the work that the committee is set up to do. In fact, that committee has the security clearance, and those documents have been provided in full, unredacted. So clearly, there is an interest of the government to share these documents with a committee that is appropriately tasked to do the review.
Well, let me ask you a very simple yes or no question, Minister. Is NSICOP a committee of Parliament?
Again, NSICOP was established for exactly to review documents and matters that have a national security or other privacy considerations. And that's why I've asked the committee, that's why I've sent the letter to refer this matter to that committee and provided the full unredacted documents to the only committee of parliamentarians that does have the security clearance and adequate safety protocols.
Thank you, Minister. I'll answer the question. NSICOP is not a committee of Parliament. It's right in subsection 4(3). I quote, not a committee of Parliament. The committee is not a committee of either House of Parliament or of both houses, end quote. Not only is this committee not a committee of Parliament, MPs and senators on the committee actually give up their parliamentary rights. Subsection 12(1) says, quote, despite any other law, no member or former member of the committee may claim immunity based on parliamentary privilege in a proceeding against them in relation to a contravention of subsection 11(1) or of a provision of the Security Information Act or in relation to any other proceeding arising from any disclosure of information that is prohibited under that section. So NSICOP is not a committee of parliament. Its members give up their rights they have as parliamentarians. Its members and its chair are hired and fired by the Prime Minister. Any minister has the right to refuse the committee information and block a committee's review. And the Prime Minister has the power to change committee reports before they are made public. So it's clearly the wrong committee to hold the government accountable for national security breaches. It's like the fox guarding the henhouse. And more importantly, by sending these documents to NSICOP, you are in violation of 2 orders of this committee and an order of the House. Minister, with the greatest of respect, for the last year and a half during this pandemic, you have been telling Canadians they should follow public health orders. Well, you and your agency have thumbed their nose at 2 orders of this committee and 1 order of the House of Commons. So much for the rule of law. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chong. We'll now go on to Mr. Prajus-Katos for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here tonight, Minister, and the work that you've been doing throughout the pandemic. And I will say the same to Mr. Stewart as well. It's good to see you again, sir. Minister, could you, and I have questions specifically on the National Microbiology Lab, just to set the context. Could you elaborate on the security in place at the lab itself?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And I will just say that because of the nature of the work that the lab does, there is a focus on security. And perhaps it's best if I turn this question to the director of the lab himself, Dr. Polican, to speak about the security protocols.
For the NSICOP committee, one thing that he referred to, of course, was that the members of the committee are appointed by the Prime Minister or by the Governor General on the recommendation of the Prime Minister, and they hold office under pleasure, according to 5(1) of the committee of the legislation, to hold office during pleasure until the dissolution of Parliament following their appointment. Now, that means to me, Minister, that if there is an election called, the committee would be dissolved. There would be no members of that committee, and any work that they were doing would, in fact, disappear. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I don't feel qualified to speak to what the procedure of the committee is on dissolution of Parliament. I can say that the committee has the fully unredacted documents at their disposal now.
Yeah, I just thought the legislation says very simply that the committee members hold office during pleasure until the dissolution of Parliament following their appointment. So they wouldn't exist as members of the committee thereafter. That's what the legislation says, and I guess anyone listening can draw their own conclusions. The legislation also provides that the minister may withhold information as well, to which the committee would otherwise be entitled to, if there's information constitutes special operational information, and the provision of the information would be injurious to national security. Has any information been withheld from this NSICOP committee under that provision?
My understanding is that President Stewart has forwarded a complete set of unredacted documents, but I'll turn to him to say a few more words.
As Minister Hajdu said, we provided a complete and unredacted package of all materials to the committee.
Materials coming from where, Mr. Stewart? In the possession of PHAC, is that it?
Mr. Chair and Honourable Member, if you think about the package of materials we provided to you, parts were withheld and parts were blacked out. The totality of that package was provided to NSICOP.
So nothing beyond that package was provided at all?
Exactly the materials requested in the House motion were provided, sir.
And Mr. Stewart, were any instructions provided to the committee by virtue of what they're requested to do?
My material was just a transmittal letter and the materials.
So they have these committees. So what we have is a committee that has been sent a set of documents with no instructions. They're just there. They're sitting in their inbox, and it's up to them what to do with them. The minister Hajdu, you haven't requested them to do anything with those documents or anything with the issues that have been raised in this committee or raised in the with relation to this matter. Is that correct?
As I said earlier, to this exact question, the documents have been forwarded to the committee with the suggestion that this committee would be more equipped to perform the review of those documents.
They would be, in your view, more equipped to perform the review of those documents, but in terms of what exactly they're expected to do, in terms of do they have any investigative powers, do you know?
I'm sorry, I don't have the terms of reference for that particular committee, other than my understanding, again, is that the appropriate level of clearance and security clearance is why that committee is better suited to look at these particular documents.
So they're only looking at documents. They're not conducting anything that they don't decide to do themselves. You haven't asked them to do anything, and no one has asked them to do anything.
Certainly, if they choose to study the issue, that is at their prerogative, and they have the full set of documents from which to do so.
So, so you're just basically passing them off to them because you don't want to comply with the order of the House.
Well,
Don't forget to like, dislike, subscribe, and comment. Safe Space Cafe. And always, have a good day.